So you want to build a house. Welcome to the podcast, sponsored by Aurora Homes. I am Scott Daly.
I'm Keith Strom.
And
Just interrupted you.
That's it. Say your own name,
Woo!
man. That's it. Forget it. He needs no introduction. And maybe he was afraid he wasn't going to get one, so he just did it himself.
I didn't want you guys to be surprised when you hear my voice later on.
Right? That's Keith. This is episode 31. Or is it 2?
2.
It's 32.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Episode 32.
Obviously, this is our full-time job. Episode 32, and today we're going to talk about how to visit a model home. What you need to know about model homes. This is part of the process of buying a house, a new home anyway, and a lot of it involves model homes. And we're just going to give you some very practical things about what to do when you're going to a model home. And how to think and all that. And we're going to sort of open up the curtain and let you sort of see behind the curtain or behind the veil into, what builders are trying to do in the model, and understanding that the builder has an agenda, but you as the conscientious, educated consumer need to have an agenda as well. And sometimes those agendas overlap and sometimes they don't. And that's the most important thing. Hi, this is Scott Daly at Aurora Homes. Do you know the one greatest regret that people that build a new home have when they move in? Believe it or not, it's that they didn't get all of the features that they wanted. And so one of the big problems that you have with some of the large production builders is the speed at which they're going to move you through the process of making selections on a new home. At Aurora Homes, we're going to draw your plans from scratch. We're going to get to know you in the process, and we're going to walk you through so that you get the home that best suits your life. At Aurora Homes, our semi-custom production system will allow you to get the better home. We're here. We're available. We'd love to talk to you about your new project. You can reach out to us at yourfuturewillthankyou.com or give us a call at 302-381-8881. Now back to the podcast. So what do you think is the first thing that you need to think about when it comes to, you're going to go to a model home? What's your first thought?
Yeah, I mean, I am trying to maximize my time.
Okay.
And I think that looks different for everybody. Maybe you're 2 years down the road and you just want a little glimpse of what's in the area, right?
Sure.
Maybe you're planning on making a move in 6 months and your timeline's a little bit more, I don't know. You need to be more prepared or less prepared depending on what kind of timeline you have.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. So if you're doing a scouting mission, you're a couple years out, maybe you're not doing as much of your this is the start of your homework.
Right.
But let's say you decided, hey, in a year we want to be in a new house.
Yeah.
Or in a house, and we're thinking about new.
I would say that what we're going to go over today definitely will help the person who's a year out, like somebody who's trying to make that move a little sooner than later.
So, and I would also say the first thing that you probably need to do is figure out what's important to you. I think a lot of people, when it comes to any type of real estate, have this mentality of, I'll know it when I see it. And I don't know that that's the best way to buy real estate. I think a lot of people do it that way, but then I wonder, a year after they've moved in, did they really know it when they saw it? The other problem with going into a model home is you're going to see something that nobody lives in a model home in that neighborhood.
That's a good point.
Right? So, model homes are not reality. Model homes are professionally decorated sales tools, and they have one purpose, and that purpose, and don't tell any of the other builders I told you this will be our little secret, is to create an emotional response for you to make a decision to buy a house. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing.
Yeah. They're a storefront for the builder.
Right. And basically, you can literally walk into some builders, and if you look at all the things hanging on the wall or all these little disclaimers, they're going to give you a disclaimer that says there are features that they have put into the model home that they don't sell. And I'm not even talking about the furniture, which is distracting enough, right? So they've decorated this thing to just make it look inviting and lived in, and there's a fake cheesecake on the dining room and all that.
Yeah.
But it looks real, and you kind of want to touch it, and your kids definitely want to touch it, or your grandkids. And all of this is to get an emotional response out of you, because there is an emotional aspect to buying real estate. The problem with that is that if you're not sort of mentally prepared before you go in there, that you might make a decision that's all based on emotion. You're talking hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you don't want to just be purely operating in the emotional space. And that doesn't mean we don't want you to love your house, but you ought to know what it is you're going to love, because you're getting in a long-term relationship with the house and the builder. And so figuring out what matters to you before you start shopping is huge. And there's so many factors, right? There's the type of house, there's the location, there's the type of community. Am I thinking anything else?
Yeah, I mean, you might find that, so, what you're saying is basically create some kind of list, something that you can reference that details the items you're looking for. You may find, and it kind of goes with what I was saying about, spending your time wisely. You may find that after you've made that list, you've already eliminated some communities from your list.
Right.
Like, okay, you want a community with a pool. That might be something that you want to know before you go look.
Right. And if it doesn't have a pool, and that's a deal breaker for you,
then
you don't need to go there.
Yeah, you don't need to waste your time. If you one of our last episodes, I think it was our last episode, we talked about foundations. Okay, if you want a basement, right?
Right, and and they build on slab only.
Then why go?
You don't need to go. Right.
So it's good to make that list.
Right, and you're saving yourself time. You're saving the builder time. Because you can spend 3 hours there and not be a buyer, and that just makes you 3 hours older. It makes the sales rep. They're going to send you 14 emails after you leave, and you already know you're not buying it. And you're not going to tell them you're not a buyer, and even if you are, they're not going to believe you. And they're going to keep emailing you anyway, because that's what we would do. And that's a big waste of time. Don't do that. So do your homework. Know what you like, you don't like. Everyone has non-negotiables. Figure out your non-negotiables, and then figure out some wants, things like that. Obviously, you can do a ton of research of a lot of the builders online. Some of their websites will tell you lots of things. Some of their websites won't tell you squat, which in itself tells you something, I suppose. And off you go. And so you plan your day. And so do you just show up at a model home?
No, you want to make an appointment.
Why
Absolutely.
do you want to make an appointment?
If you're 2 years out, if you're 3 years out, if you're, whatever your timeline looks like, you got to make an appointment.
Okay, but here's my problem with that, Keith. I'm the homeowner or the possible buyer. I don't want to give the builder a phone number or an email address. Why is it still worth it, knowing that I'm going to have to give up my phone number or my email, knowing that I'm going to get put on a list somewhere? Why is it still worth setting an appointment?
You are going to get just infinitely better information about the builder if you just, make your appointment.
Okay. And
because
why is that?
They're going to designate time for you specifically to know your situation, know what you're looking for, answer all the questions that you have. If you just walk into a model home and they're already meeting with somebody else, it's just harder. It's harder to maximize your time, really.
Right. Right, because you're not so if you're going to look at used real estate and you walk through the house, that's the house that you're buying. It's for sale. So let's say you're like, okay, I'm going to go to an open house. I saw on Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever that this used house is having an open house on Sunday afternoon from 1 to 3. It's 2 o'clock. I'm going to walk through the open house. That's the product that you can buy.
Right.
And so if there's an agent sitting there, whether you talk to them or not, you're still looking at the actual product. Whereas if you're going through a model, there's a pretty good chance you're not buying that.
You're going to have a lot of questions about what comes, like if you want to build that house, what comes included?
Right.
What's an upgrade?
Yeah.
Can I do a basement on this lot or that lot? Or, there's so many, you're going to have so many questions. You just want to make sure that, it's free to schedule an appointment. Like just schedule an appointment. Doesn't cost you anything except for maybe your phone number, maybe your email address,
right.
But it's worth doing because when you give that little bit of information, you're going to get a lot in return. If you're serious about, building a house and making that move.
And what would you say? Okay, so set an appointment, number one. Do your homework, number one. Okay, set an appointment, number two. How many of those appointments would you do in a day?
2 max.
Why?
You just get so tired. I mean, it's information overload. You hit that third house and it's over.
Right.
You can't process any more information.
You can't. And that's the thing is, it is almost impossible in new construction to compare apples to apples. We get these phone calls. Hey, what's your cost to build per square foot? And I know that there's older podcasts that we've talked about them, and even these podcasts might be 5 years old, but they're still just as relevant. Like that's asking it's not an informed question. I hate to say it, because the only way that cost per square foot is a meaningful comparison is when you have identical products, right? So if you decide, hey, I want to build at the cheapest cost per square foot, you're going to design your house and you're going to spec out everything you want. But if you're walking into a model and you're looking at a lot home package from a builder, they're all going to be different. And so that means their cost per square foot is going to be all over the place. But they're also all different, meaning that, if you walk into an Aurora home and you're wondering why it costs more than a very large national builder, they are going to be able to tell you very quickly why there's a cost difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're going to have to sort that out. And so if you go to 5 different builders in one day, not only are you in for the longest day of your life, but like you said, it's complete information overload. You'll never sort it all out, and you'll never have time to process it. And then ultimately, you're not going to be able to keep straight just who you talk to, who said what this builder's standards are, these incentives, this floor plan, this lot availability. You'll never make sense of it.
The worst thing is if you do find that house and you go under contract and you kind of, then you have a meeting with your builder who you're now under contract with, you've placed your deposit, and you say, oh, yeah, this thing's standard, right? And then they're like, no, where'd you get that from?
Right. Or we don't do that.
Got it from another builder, or we don't do that, or, anyway,
yeah.
It's good to process the information. 2 model homes is really all you need,
right,
for a day.
And if you're working with a realtor, have them come on the first visit, or even with some builders, just have them register, because you don't necessarily need the agent there for the new construction. But you want to be able to respect that agent and that agent's time and register as a client of that agent. So if you end up buying from that builder, they're going to typically offer compensation to the real estate company, and you want them to get paid. We want the realtors to get paid, but at the same time, if you're going to spend 3 hours there, the realtor doesn't need to spend 3 hours there trying to figure out what kind of cabinets are standard and which ones you really like, or whatever questions it is that you have. But so 2 a day, and plan on spending probably an hour and a half to 2 hours in the model home with the builder's rep, with some kind of a notepad there so you can write some of this stuff down, or at least expect a follow-up email, something where you can get information in writing so that you can go back and you can keep it all straight. So that's the first one, do your homework. The second one, plan out your day. 2 appointments max in a day. And if you want to visit 8 different builders, I would say you probably need to go back to step 1, because if you have decided that you're okay with 8 different builders, I would say you're not okay with 8 different builders. You just don't know it. Like, you're just not. We've seen a lot of people come in and they're like, well, I'm looking at this, and the houses are so different. Like, you're really not. What you're really saying to the sales rep is, I have no idea what I'm looking for. And so I'm going to get more confused by visiting 8 different builders that then I can't keep their information straight.
It's literally like going to a car lot and you have a truck, a Jeep, an SUV, a sedan, a motorcycle. Like, you have all that in mind,
Right.
It's like not,
No, you don't.
Are you here for a motorcycle or are you here for a truck? Like, because
yes,
utility wise, like they both, they both ride on the road. Like, that's the thing they have in common. They both have tires and wheels, whatever. But houses are just are infinitely different from one another. They have a lot of components. It's just definitely something that if you do, like you said, go back to step 1 and try to refine that down.
Right. I think that's 100% accurate, and that'll save everyone time too, because the sales rep doesn't want to be sitting there wasting your time, and you don't want to be wasting the builder's time. So that's it. And then I guess the next step is, when you're in the model, is try to evaluate what they're actually selling. And I'm going to be honest, this is one of the things that I find just fascinating about the industry of new home sales.
It's also really hard to deduce sometimes.
Right.
As somebody who's like not used to it.
Why do you say that?
I think that when you're uneducated about how houses are built, which is part of why we have this podcast. We're trying to teach you how they're built, and how they're sold and all that. But when you don't know, it's like you walk in there and you don't know the difference between a cased opening and a barn door, and this thickness of drywall and that thickness of drywall, and a slab foundation versus a basement. There's just
Right.
it can be very, very confusing to somebody who doesn't know what exactly it is. Like the bottom dollar, okay, this house might be cheaper than this house, but if you don't understand what is being sold, like from a house perspective, like what the features actually are, those bottom line numbers mean nothing.
Right. That's a really, really valid point, is getting a little bit of an education. And maybe you don't need the hyper technical side of it. But I do think getting a little more educated about a house, you can do a lot of that at home. You can do it on the builder's website. You can just do it on, there's YouTube videos on construction, on all these things. And just, I think sometimes building new scares a lot of people. It's a dream that folks want. Gosh, I'd really love to build a new house, but I'm really, there's a lot of reasons why people back away from that dream. And some of it is they don't trust themselves. They don't trust themselves to make the choices, the right choices. If you have to make a lot of decisions with a builder, sometimes that's more terrifying than if the builder doesn't give you a lot of choices. Whereas you would think getting the exact house you want makes more sense, but some people are terrified of making those decisions, which means that, again, the more educated you get and choosing the right builder, you should be excited about it, and you should have a level of trust, hopefully, that you develop with the builder, that hopefully they're going to help you not make big mistakes.
Right.
And they're going to, talk you out of things. It's funny, like we've dealt with customers over time, and they'll say, well, I want to do this. And we'll be like, no, you don't. You don't want to do that. Why don't I want to do that? Well, here's what you don't know that I know. And I'm going to tell you that you don't actually want bright green cabinets. But I love green. Yeah, you do. And paint your walls green. Why are my walls green and not my cabinets green? Well, because when green is out of style, which is in a week and a half, if it even is in style, like, it's not a big deal to paint your walls and go, hey, what was I thinking? But if your cabinets are green, you can paint your cabinets. Ish.
Yeah, solid point.
Ish. So we're going to try to talk you out of that, So anyway, that's just one of the things about being able to look at what they're selling, because the model home is not going to be a good indicator. A model home is this dream aspirational thing. But in a way, I feel like it's almost more depressing, because you walk in the model and go, I want to live in this. And, your budget is $700,000, and they say the model home's $1.2 million. And then it's like, oh, well, I have to get some schlocky thing. Not necessarily, but that's just an interesting thing about the business. Is you want to try to evaluate what they're actually selling and go through the model and go, okay, if what I'm looking at, is the trimmer on the windows, does that come with it? Does the, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Forget whether you're interested in that floor plan or not. Are these windows standard? There's a lot of questions you can sort of ask that you can get an understanding. And you can ask the builder also, I would say, can I walk through a house that is close to being finished that actually somebody's buying?
I was just going to mention that. Yeah, that's one of the best things you can ask is, hey, do you have a house that's like the one I want, that's pretty close to standard or a little bit around that realm? Yeah.
That is not a model.
Mm-hmm, right.
And that way you can sort of see, what it is that you're getting or what it is that somebody else is getting. And it doesn't have the furniture. It doesn't create that same emotional punch.
Yeah. That's a very good use of time.
Is to ask them, right? And if the builder says no, maybe that's a red flag. I don't know. So.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a virtual tour instead.
Well, honestly, a lot of the bigger builders, so let's say they offer 8 models, and if they're a large enough builder in Delaware, they're going to have model versions of all 8 of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if the builder says, oh, yeah, you're looking for, the Aurora model, which we have one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, and the builder's rep says, it's available in we have a model of that in a different community. And you want to sort of push back a little bit and say, I want to see one that's under construction.
Yeah.
I don't want to see another model, because another model is going to be a different flavor of the same problem that I have, that it's got all these things in it that I can't buy or I can't afford. But I actually want to see one that's under construction. And if I can't get one that's under construction, can I get one, can I get in one, and maybe not the same day, that you built in the past? Will
Yeah.
a homeowner let you give me a tour?
It's hard. It's hard without going and looking at it stripped down. I mean, it's hard to unsee it's hard to unsee the marketing that is around you in a
Right.
model home sometimes.
Right. Okay, so you've done your homework, you've planned your day, you've made appointments to go to 2 models in one day, and you've done a good job of evaluating what they're selling. And you might have even set up a follow-up appointment to see a different house. And the last thing you want to do is you want to have a list of questions that you want the builder's rep to answer. And so we're just going to go through those. What do you think? Run down a few of those, Keith, if you can see them.
Yeah, I'd say probably one of the most important things is how are you going to finance the thing?
Okay.
So, understand how the builder works in the way of financing. So sometimes there are builders in this area that have specific lenders that they'll give you a better deal sometimes if you use a specific lender, but you may find that it's not the type of process that you want, and so maybe it's better to go with one that you pick or whatever. It's good to understand how the builder wants to obtain the money and make sure that the way you're going to pay it and the way they want it match.
Right.
Because if it doesn't, you can't really move beyond.
Right. And I would also even encourage you, so that conversation is also going to say is you're going to ask about incentives. What kind of incentives do you have? We get that question sometimes, like the first question people ask. And I think to a certain degree it's the least relevant question because, I've been saying this throughout my entire building career is that nothing's free.
Mm-hmm.
So when the builder says, hey, you're going to get $30,000 in free options, do you really?
No.
You're not. You just paid for them somewhere else.
Sorry to say.
Right. And so if the builder says, hey, if you use this lender, we're going to give you a free something.
Not just houses. It means any product.
Yeah. There's no free.
Unless the company is actively trying to go out of business. I don't know.
Right. So sometimes incentives help and sometimes they don't. But it ultimately all comes down to the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being able to get a discount on options is not a bad thing. It's not a free thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. But you just sort of want to sort of know what they are, but also know that they can change. And if a builder is selling well in a community, you're not going to have a lot of incentives. It's selling poorly, you might get great incentives, and they can change. And they might speak to you, but nothing's free. And so tying some type of incentive to a financing agreement with a builder usually means that you're going to be paying a slightly higher rate. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But the idea that I can get this super low rate and a free screen porch for using the lender, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So, all right. What is? So I need to ask how the financing works and how they want to structure the transaction. What else do I want to talk about?
I think hopefully you kind of already know what the structure of the community is like. What types of amenities are there, which kind of plays into the next thing. HOA fees and what that includes. So along with lending, and that's kind of the money part of it. But the other money part of it is how much does it cost per month, per quarter, per year, and what does it include?
Right. All these new communities in southern Delaware generally have HOAs. Newer communities have much higher HOA fees because they have more regulation on them than older ones. It's like, if you want to look at a 30-year-old house in a 30-year-old subdivision and they pay $75 a year for their HOA, and a similar-looking neighborhood that's brand new pays $750, well, there's a lot of differences in that in terms of how they have to take care of their streets and their stormwater, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a huge one, the HOA fees. And you got to even think about those amenities. Like if you want that big pool and that clubhouse in the neighborhood, that's going to be in your HOA fees. You're going to pay for it whether you use it or not. And so for people that want to use that stuff, it makes total sense to pay it. But there's a lot of folks, I think, that 5 years down the road have this remorse because you have to know yourself. And if you're not a sit-by-the-pool person, when you move to southern Delaware from wherever you're coming from, you're probably not a sit-by-the-pool person. You're going to be you in a different place. And if that's not your thing, it's probably not going to become your thing. But, if you really bought in and you walk through the clubhouse with the sales rep and you walk through the pool and you said, this is me, and it's not you, well, you're going to pay for that version of you, whether that's the actual version of you or not.
or the hopeful one. Or
Right. Here's the me I want to become, but I'm paying for the pretend me, even if I just came to Delaware and stayed me.
Mm-hmm. Like when people ask about fireplaces, they're like, "Should I get a fireplace?" I'm like, "Do you have one now?" Like, well, yeah, we use it all the time. Okay, well,
Get one.
get one.
Yeah. If
I mean,
don't, then don't.
and maybe you don't have one and you've always wanted one. That's a reality that can exist too. But
Sure.
I'd say one thing to piggyback the HOA stuff, if you're looking at sometimes like we'll market lots that aren't in communities. So if you come to us and you say, "Hey, I really, I'm looking at this particular house that's up the street," it can be useful to know what fees, like if you're in a township, for example, your taxes are going to be a little bit different. Your hookup fees are a little different. There are different regulations that increase the cost of the build depending on where you build it. In a community, they're pretty much more or less the same lot by lot. But if you're looking at, let's say, for example, a house you want to build in town Lewis, and you reach out to us and say, "Hey, we want to build in town Lewis. Here's the lot we're looking at. Can you build your house for this price marketed on your website?" Keep in mind the fees that are related to that lot could be a little different than
Right.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. What else do they need to ask about?
Yeah. Timeline, probably. Just knowing how long the process takes, start to finish.
Right. And just even that's part of knowing the builder.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these large companies are going to build a house much faster than the smaller ones. So the timeline to build, what's the process, the design process of the house, how do I select my options, and just understanding how all that works through the builder, because they're all going to operate a little differently. Other things that you might want to think about is, what about the warranty? Ask about that from the builder. What kind of warranty is there? Can I get a copy of the warranty that I want to read in advance?
Yep.
Any builder that you want to deal with is going to be happy to give you a copy of their warranty, or they're going to say it's on their website or something like that.
Yeah, we usually just email it to you if you ask for it. Yeah, easy.
Another one would be, what's the typical amount of options spent on a house in this community?
Another good question.
Because you don't want to necessarily be the most expensive one in the neighborhood, or if you do, you want to know how much can I spend before I am the most expensive one in the neighborhood. But if your house costs $400,000 more than all your neighbors, that's probably something that you need to think about. And that goes back, what are the actual standard features? And if you don't understand something that you read, ask what that means. Like if you say, "Oh, the builder says, yeah, we give you standard trim on all our openings are cased openings," and you're like, "What's a cased opening?" Like, don't be afraid to ask that. Like, maybe you don't know why would you know what a cased opening is?
Yeah.
I know before I got in this business, I didn't know what a cased opening is. Like, cased is like something, you do when you're getting ready to rob something. You case the joint, back from my days in the mob. I don't know. So is it like come with like some spy that like stares at the opening of my house? He's like casing the joint or something. I don't know. Are you going to knock over a convenience store with wood? Anyway, there's just a lot of things that my mind is doing there. But so if I don't understand, all this technical jargon that they're throwing at me, then ask and go, what does that mean? That doesn't make you sound less intelligent. It actually makes you sound smarter, because if you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, you might want to actually understand what the heck you're getting. So that's just a thought. And in a larger community, you might say, "Hey, how many builders are in this community?" Because if you walk into a neighborhood where there's multiple builders, I would say it's absurd not to want to get an appointment with all of them.
Yeah, especially if you want to be in that community.
Yeah.
Of course you should.
Even if you realize, hey, that other builder for whatever reason is not going to be a good fit for me, whether they build smaller houses or they build bigger houses, they're a higher end builder, they're a lower end builder, they're either below my budget, they're above my budget. It still makes sense to check out all of the options in that community. And I promise you, the sales rep doesn't want you to do that.
Yeah.
They want you to leave having left them a deposit, and they don't want you to go anywhere else. So,
yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, you may find you may be looking at two houses of different or similar, like of different price points, and you're like, oh, I'm not even going to go check out that one. It might not be what we want to do, but then you find out when you walk in there that the incentives make it in the same price point.
Right.
That's, something that you probably want to know before you go under contract.
And worst case, you walk out of there and you go, yeah, we're right. This isn't for us. And then you feel more comfortable with the decision that you made. So, and the final thing would be after you've had your 2 appointments and you've asked all your questions, because your homework was done before, and you have asked all these questions, you've gotten answers, you've gotten the follow-up email from the sales rep who's going to give you the information that you want. You're going to say you're going to make some notes, and then sort of take the information that you have and see how it aligns with what your goals are, which you defined before you ever went into the model home. And that is going to really allow you to get the most out of a model home visit, because if you just walk in there cold and you look at all the eye candy, I'm not sure if that's going to be that meaningful. And you're ultimately going to have to come back and do this homework. You might as well just go to it the first time. And you might just walk out and go, yeah, that's totally not for us. And I would say, tell the sales rep that. Say, hey, we have researched this and this isn't going to make any sense for us, and here's why. And they might send you a couple of follow-up emails and try to see if they probe into that. And maybe they answer a question. Maybe you've come to a wrong conclusion, but eventually if that's really the right conclusion and you stick with it, you're going to save everybody a lot of time, because you're not going to continue to get emails from that rep or phone calls or whatever. Or they might say, oh, well, I'm sorry that you didn't hear this properly. Here are the things. If you're just a little open and honest with them in the process, they're in the business of selling houses. And so when they figure out that you're not a sale, they will move on at some point. So it's never a bad idea to be a little more upfront with the sales rep.
Yeah, agreed.
So is there anything else?
I think we covered it pretty good.
So I think that's hopefully some good information for everybody to go in and just make the most use of your time, and hopefully give you some more confidence to say, if you've always dreamed of having a new house and you just maybe are a little scared to go through the processes, don't be scared. Go through the process. Lots of people before you have done it and have ended up much happier. At Aurora wants to build a house that's going to make your life extraordinary. It's literally going to improve your quality of life by what they put in the houses and how they design it. And that's the promise that they make. And I don't know that, the person selling that 20-year-old rancher that's moving back to New Jersey, they're not making that promise. I don't know what promise they're making.
Right.
But not that one. So there you go. So this is the So You Want to Build a House podcast. I'm Scott Daly.
I'm Keith Strom.
Have a great day.